Shah was unwilling to give uncommon guarantees that the United States sought. The Shah repeatedly said, I will not treat it like a second-class citizen. We want all the rights that the NPT grants us. And we now know that the NPT, or the Non-Proliferation Treaty, is a flawed treaty. It allows countries to go to the brink of being a nuclear state and withdraw without any penalties. And the Shah wanted to use all of that. And I'll talk a little more about the nuclear when we talk about the substance of the class. But these documents did not exist 2 years ago. When I earlier wrote about Iran's nuclear program, the only thing that I had that tended to indicate these tensions was 2 letters that Akbar Etemad gave me in an interview that I did with him. And the letters were remarkable in terms of the tension that existed. That 2-letter hint is now filled with almost 1,000 pages of documents. So in a sense, we can now really, for the first time, be in a position to write an informed narrative about what happened in the revolution. The events of the last few months have once again made the issue of the fall of the Shah of enormous relevance. Unbeknownst to me, the book came out almost at the best possible time it could, all the delays that I had. It was a long delay. In the mean, I was almost half finished with the book that I agreed to do, the Eminent Persians project. It was a 4-year project, but it was a project about the Shah's period, about the people who worked in the Shah regime or against them, and I agreed to do it. But the book was delayed. It was delayed long enough that some in the Iranian community actually believed that I was lying, that I was not working on a book. Somebody went on television once and said, he's been talking about this book for 10 years. Obviously he's lying. He's not writing a book. Nobody takes 10 years to write a book. And unplanned, the book came out at a very, very appropriate time, because comparison between 1979 and what was happening in Egypt became very relevant. So much so that the first printing of the book, which was a large printing, sold out virtually in 2 weeks. The publisher was caught off guard. Amazon ran out, the publisher ran out. All of this had nothing to do with the quality of the book. The first 2 weeks, the sale, it was because of its topicality. And that's why it's gone into several prints since then. So understanding why he fell, I think, has now become more relevant than ever. And these documents allow us to understand how and why he fell, I think, better than ever before. The Islamic regime, in the last few months, few weeks essentially, has been offering a narrative that says what is happening in Egypt, Tunisia, all of the Middle East, is essentially a reverberation of, a reflection of, a continuation of what happened in Iran in 1979. That's the narrative they have been offering. Some others have been offering, I amongst them, a different narrative that says what is happening in the Middle East today is in fact much more related to what happened in Iran in June 2009, to the Green Movement, than what happened in 1979. And furthermore, what happened in June 2009 is very much related to what happened in 1979. If we understand what happened in 1979, I think we can easily understand why there is 3 million people who are willing to come out in the streets and say what happened to my vote, which is a remarkable event in modern history of Iran, I think. There's never been an audience and demonstration that large. So again, all of this is to say that it is a very important event, and understanding it is, I think, very much urgent. If you look at why Iran has been in the news for the last few years, I think we would all concur that there are 3 issues that count the most in terms of getting international attention for it. One has been Iran's nuclear program. The other one is Iran's democratic movement. The third is Iran's role in the regional role of Iran in the Persian Gulf, or in Iraq, in Afghanistan, as far away as Gaza, as far away as Somalia. All of these three issues, central to why Iran is at the center of attention today, are issues that have their roots in the Shah's period. And they have their roots in an inseparable way in the Shah's period. Without understanding those dynamics, I would say you can't understand these dynamics. And if you look at Iran's domestic problems, if you look at the tumults of the last 30 years, what are the key issues that are at the core of the debate? Again, I would submit that the three issues are not necessarily in the order of importance, but they are the question of modernity and tradition, whether Iran wants to accept modernity or whether Iran should reject modernity and accept some form of tradition, and a debate about whether modernity is Western and what defines Iran's tradition are incumbent in this. Second is the politics of identity. What does it mean to be an Iranian? To what extent Iranianness is defined by its Islamic root? To what extent is it defined by its pre-Islamic period? And third is the question of democracy and despotism. To what extent should people be involved in decision-making? To what extent, for different reasons, should or could one person decide the fate of the country? I think these three questions are, in my views, the most important, salient questions of the last 30 years. Iranian cultural politics, Iranian political dynamics, Iranian encounter with modernity. And again, on these three issues as well, you will see that many of the things that are happening in Iran today are, to a great extent, a reflection of what happened or a continuation of what happened during the Shah. So for both the paradigmatic issues that define Iran internationally and the paradigmatic issues that define Iran domestically, the period of the Shah, I think, is becoming increasingly clear, a pivotal moment of history. So let's take some of these issues and discuss them and see what I have come up with in the book about them. First, the nuclear issue, easily the most discussed issue. As I said, evidence, I think, shows overwhelmingly that what we have hitherto been told by the regime does not fit the reality. And the regime has basically, the Iranian regime has basically changed its claim about the nuclear program 2 times. In the first 3-4 years, the story was that the nuclear program was garbage, was unnecessary for Iran, and that Iran was forced to accept it because the Americans wanted to sell Iran as garbage. Iran had surplus reserve, foreign currency. The US was short of dollars and a trade imbalance, and thus they forced their lackey, the Shah, to accept the nuclear program. And thus, Ayatollah Khomeini unilaterally decided to end the program as soon as he came. A program that by many reliable evidence was 75% finished. Iran could have had a working reactor at Bushehr run by Siemens in 1981. It was 75% finished. It was destined to begin at 781. The technology was German. The design was German. The reactor was German. And it should have been completed in 81. Khomeini unilaterally decided to completely end the program.